Welcome to The Know. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm Mica Burton.
So Microsoft's made a pretty big fuss about PS4 Pro not being capable of true 4K. That's kind of been their big selling point for Xbox Scorpio, right? It'll be so powerful. But now it looks like the shoe could be on the other foot because new leaks show that even Scorpio may not be targeting a native 4K resolution.
Well, these leaks come from Digital Foundry, which has allegedly obtained some internal Microsoft documents that reveal a bit more about Microsoft's hardware plans for Scorpio and how the company wants its developers to tackle 4K gaming. Well, it's not all that different from the PS4 Pro.
So the documents in question are white papers produced by the Xbox division titled Reaching 4K and GPU Scaling Across Multiple Xbox Devices, which instructs developers how Microsoft wants them to handle 4K, aka Ultra HD, on its future console.
As for whether or not these leaks are believable, Digital Foundry and parent Eurogamer have a pretty solid track record when it comes to this kind of information. They leaked the very accurate information about Switch's hardware last summer, for instance, and while they weren't the first to break the report on the PS4 Pro, they were the first to confirm the initial rumors with concrete evidence, which has all turned out to be true.
Yeah, even still, there are a couple of caveats here. The white papers were distributed after Microsoft's E3 presentation in 2016, so it's always possible things have changed in the 6 months since that announcement.
So, what did the new papers tell us about Microsoft's 4K strategy and the Xbox One hardware? For starters, they give us some indication about the system's performance, mostly in relation to its RAM and GPU.
Yeah, one of the big technical takeaways for Digital Foundry is that Scorpio seems to be ditching a sort of controversial aspect about the Xbox One's hardware, ESRAM.
It's okay, you don't have to pretend like you know what ESRAM is or why it was disputed. I know I don't. The simple and totally not technical explanation is that ESRAM is CPU integrated memory as a way to alleviate the absence of more RAM. Meaning the Xbox One had less memory than developers would have preferred, but the trade-off with lower latency, so...
Yeah, well, the RAM issues caused some games to have a little bit of a performance problem when it comes to multi-platform titles. Don't worry, it happens to everyone. And by simply increasing the bandwidth of the ESRAM in the Xbox One S, games saw almost a 10% performance boost.
So it's a good thing that Scorpio is ditching it. According to the white papers, Microsoft explicitly states that they're getting rid of it, but they still want developers to optimize for backwards compatibility, because developers are not allowed to ship a Project Scorpio only SKU.
So that's more confirmation that there won't be any Scorpio exclusive titles, and also confirmation that they won't be using ESRAM for the upcoming system. That lends a bit of believability to some specs that Digital Foundry predicted after Scorpio was first revealed. At the time, they thought it would have 12 gigabytes of GDDR5, which would be almost required now to operate at the higher bandwidth that would be needed with ESRAM out of the picture.
So these papers aren't specifically telling us how much or what kind of RAM to expect in Scorpio, but it does help rule out a few options, and gives us a benchmark that the machine would need to hit for optimal performance.
So other hardware details from the white papers include a tiny bit more about the system's GPU. The leaked papers again confirm that the GPU is pushing 6 teraflops, with the paper mentioning, yeah, that's right, Scorpio's GPU to have 4.5 times the power of the Xbox One, which is pretty radical.
I just love the word teraflop.
It's a fun word.
It's fun. As far as the CPU goes, some other comments in the documents lead Digital Foundry to believe that Microsoft won't be upgrading the CPU much at all for Scorpio, but may just upclock some of its cores, similar to how Sony upgraded from the PS4 to the PS4 Pro.
And weirdly enough, the PS4 Pro comparisons don't stop there, which is where these leaked documents get particularly interesting. The purpose of the white paper was to instruct developers about how to handle 4K gaming on the platform, and for the most part, those instructions sound exactly like the strategy that Sony's already been employing.
Oh, this is awkward. According to Digital Foundry, a 4.5 times boost to compute power suggests that the 1080p engines will scale nicely to 4K on Scorpio, but the reality is that many Xbox One titles render at 900p base resolution. The leap to 4K therefore becomes a 5.76 times increase in pixel count. At the same time, developers may not wish to spend GPU power on pixels alone. That's a lot of words.
A lot of pixels.
Lot of pixels.
In the paper, Microsoft also recommends that developers target the exact same checkerboarding technique that's being employed by Sony for the PS4 Pro. Now, if you're unaware of what checkerboarding is, wouldn't blame you. It's basically a way to cheat a 4K resolution a little bit. You render only half the needed pixels, and then you double them to scale up to 4K.
Tisk tisk.
No, it actually is a pretty decent solution if you're working on limited power. The PS4 Pro does a very elegant version of this, allowing users to get a lot of bang for their buck, since the Pro can't technically output fully native 4K, which means that they're actually putting out, the 4K resolution rather than upscaling.
However, this technique has caused Microsoft to talk a little bit of trash to Sony about what the PS4 Pro capabilities are. In addition to a few of their executives making comments about it, wow, Microsoft also updated their Project Scorpio landing page after the PS4 Pro was announced.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oops. So for a time, the version of the site called Scorpio, the first and only console to enable true 4K gaming and high fidelity VR. That's now been changed, actually, to read the most powerful console ever, featuring 6 teraflops of graphical processing power, true 4K gaming, and compatibility with Xbox One games and accessories. So they do still say true 4K, but they've pulled back on that quite a bit.
So, all of that looks a little suspect now that it comes out that Microsoft is encouraging developers to do the exact same thing as Sony. In fact, Microsoft's leaked white papers even point to techniques and presentations made by Mark Cerny, the architect of the PS4 and PS4 Pro, as primary examples of what developers should do for Scorpio. Well, okay.
On the bright side, it means the developers tend to need to worry less if they're making a multi-platform title. It makes it seem overall like Scorpio also isn't going to be capable of true native 4K for a lot of games, quite similarly, probably to the PS4 Pro, which sort of makes you wonder, what's the point of all these console upgrades if they're only marginally more powerful and can't even do the one thing they're supposed to do?
If anything, it says that gamers should be a little cautious about their expectations for the Scorpio. It's being billed as the most powerful console ever made!
Well, it does have 6 teraflops.
All the flops! But that doesn't mean that we should expect a crazy upgrade over the PS4 Pro. Yes, the Xbox Scorpio will be a bit more powerful, but this will probably just mean an imperceptible difference for many people, especially if it's targeting the same faux 4K resolutions.
Yeah, Digital Foundry at one point says, on the face of it, the in-depth discussion of techniques like this may be suggesting that Scorpio isn't the true 4K console that Microsoft marketed it as at E3 2016.
However, they do go on to point out that in the very next sentence, that Microsoft says, one first-party game has easily made the scale to true 4K.
It can do it!
Yes!
It's probably Recore.
No! They also argue that encouraging developers to do this is actually really smart because the PS4 Pro is already doing this with really gorgeous results. And by targeting a lower resolution, it would free up developers to focus more on areas like frame rate or story.
Nah. It's also a good thing for Scorpio's price if it's only a slight upgrade on PS4 Pro in terms of power. That puts it much more in the potential $399 range for the system as opposed to the $500 range that we could potentially have been looking at. We still have no actual idea of price, but launching it more than the PS4 Pro would definitely not weigh in Microsoft's favor, especially given these new developments in its hardware. If it's not that much more powerful, they can't really charge that much more for it.
But that also means PS4 Pro will probably be able to beat it in price this holiday and mark it down to $349.
So the race to the mid-generation 4K or 4K resolution will still be anybody's game. The true test, of course, will still be the games.
Scalebound at Scorpio launch. Am I right, guys?
Oh, that hurts right here. What do you guys think of these leaked documents and Microsoft's sort of 4K strategy? Let us know in the comments.
For future updates on leaked hardware and more 4K puns, like this video and subscribe to the Know.
We got them.
I can't believe you said 4K.
4K, we got it.
God damn it. Kdin,
Yes.
have you ever found out what your nobody name would be?
No.
We should all figure out what our nobody names would be in honor of Kingdom Hearts.
You just have to add in, so you add an X.
And you can scramble
and
the
then
letters.
and then it's just words.
Good luck with finding.